what takes place in the dream world gets bigger and bigger and consequential and more
Yep.
consequential. I mean, it does seem like every time we go into it, it is they keep saying, "Oh, don't like things are bad. You don't want to do bad stuff in there." And it's like, okay, well, it seems to be getting worse and worse and more dangerous as we progress.
Yeah, 100%. And just to kind of go over again, some of the consequences and what can happen, and just some of the nature of Tel'aran'rhiod. The last known dreamer in well, I'm sorry, our current dreamer in the White Tower is Egwene. So they call her a natural dreamer. She can dream walk. You have the wise ones. They often are going in there frequently, and they seem to be well versed in it. They're dreaming, dream walking, and all that good stuff, communicating with other clan chiefs and stuff. Many of the Forsaken understand it very well. This was actually something that during the Age of Legends was well known, and more well known, and more well studied. They had Tel'aran'rhiod that could help him get there. Actually, Elaine has made that's something interesting, right? She has made Tel'aran'rhiod that she's passing around to other individuals. That's a talent that has sort of come back, and they're able to all get there because they have like these rings, this access, right, to get in. So that's pretty cool. I just want to go over again here, like anyone entering the World of Dreams while sleeping, or they can enter it. So like while you're there, you could encounter someone else sort of coming and going, drifting in very briefly in their sleep. They only brush up against it in their sleep and often do not know what they are doing. These people usually do not stay for more than a few seconds. Many people awake with pains and bruises, but they can't really explain why. Now that's interesting, right? When you think about Robert Jordan writing this, and have you ever woke up with sort of like, oh, that's a weird, kink in my back or
Right.
neck or whatever. And what is that from? Is it from the dream? Was I tossing and turning too much? Or was it actually something that you went into this other world and you do have a bruise, or you woke up with a bruise on your leg and you don't understand where that came from, and whatever. So that's kind of an interesting, I think, tie in there. But yeah, dreamwalkers can enter the world at will while sleeping, as well as those who can hold a certain Ter'angreal. Some dream Ter'angreal do not even require channeling to activate them. So, like a lot of them, that's an interesting thing, right? A Ter'angreal doesn't need to be channeled. The one power doesn't have to be channeled into it. Now, there are some that you do need to kind of channel to gain access or whatever, but yeah, there's just there's different ones, and as Matt's finding out too, we're making more of these bad boys. Like the more of these special artifacts and items are kind of cropping up. Actually, I've always thought in Wheel of Time, there's so many artifacts and little things that are like have power or could be used in a certain way and give you an advantage, and it makes things more complicated, more whatever. So that's pretty cool. But let's see. Yeah, another way to access the World of Dreams is to create a yeah, yeah, we saw this. See, I always make sure that we've seen this before. Is to sort of create a gateway into the waking world. It actually happened when Rand went in and was chasing Ravine. So, like, remember they
Right.
entered it in the flesh, sort of. Yeah. So, just wanted to kind of bring that up. Also, we know Perrin has special powers there as well, and Wolf Brothers and so on have a lot of access to it. But Anaya, who is in here right now sustaining these injuries, actually says later, and we'll get some of this at some point, but like, yeah, that she will confide in people that yeah, her bottom hurt a little bit longer than she wanted to admit, right? Because it was a real physical injury that she went too far, and you can get
Right.
hurt in this world. So that'll be interesting in the show to see, right? That'll be interesting for them. I mean, these women are like, this is a terrible dream sequence. They believe they are dying. And to, I think, a fan who hasn't read the series and doesn't understand the dream world, to see this on screen, you'd be freaking out. Like, oh my God, they're killing these Aes Sedai. These Trollocs are in this world, like shredding them. Like, I mean, they're putting them in pots of boiling whatever. Like, this is nuts. So just a crazy
I mean,
nightmare that they go through. Yeah.
this when you do a search of Tel'aran'rhiod on Google, there's not a lot of it yet.
Right.
It wasn't confirmed in the show whether they were in Tel'aran'rhiod technically or not when Moraine
Right.
and Suan meet up there. Now,
Right.
technically, if they did, they didn't. They said that could be like something else. But if they did, then they would have slept in Tel'aran'rhiod
Yeah, that was interesting.
because first they slept together. Well, there wasn't much sleeping
Absolutely.
going on, and then they
Right.
actually slept there.
Right, right. Yeah, so I don't, it's a reflection of the waking world, but it's not necessary. So they're asleep, and they still enter that. Their bodies are in different rooms. What was interesting about the show is it looked like she walked her physical form
Right.
walked into either they did that because they didn't yet know how to do it or what they were going to make Tel'aran'rhiod, or it's something that is a little spoiler for later on in the series that's a special thing that they can create. And that's what people were kind of speculating. And I think Matt, you've already heard the term, which is like a people because when this came up in the show, and unfortunately, this is just a nature of it. Like if you're watching season one and they drop something that happens in book 6 or 7, well, what are you going to do? I mean, like that's
Right.
that happened. So that was like a dream shard. That's unconfirmed. That's like not. I don't think that's confirmed anywhere. What people were speculating is it Tel'aran'rhiod? Is it a dream shard? Is it some? Did they enter in the flesh? You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is dangerous. So is it their own thing? I don't really know yet exactly what because yeah, it looks all kind of ethereal and mystic and
Right.
everything, right? You know. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we're not entirely sure what it was ultimately that they.
read that last sentence above this
I know. I know. This is the part where if you're watching the episode with the beloved lesbian, you listen to them scream and wake.
it's awesome.
Unfortunately, there's Wheel of Time just did not have a lot of like the Screen Rant and all. A lot of those like junk websites that just cover a bunch of. There weren't as many articles
Right.
about it. So
Yeah,
so
it'll probably turn up in season 2 more. People are like,
I
"Well,
think
what is
it
this?"
will.
Yeah.
I think it'll pick up because a lot of people don't even watch shows that don't have like
Mhm.
multiple seasons because it's like, well, I don't want to
Yeah, let's
like
see how that goes, right? Yeah.
every time a new Marvel show drops, I wait. I'm just like, I'll wait until all 6 episodes are out, then I'll just stream the whole thing.
Right. Yep, exactly.
Um, so okay, so the second part um of this episode. Hold on, by the way,
Yeah.
Morven, you
Yeah.
know, so we have, Ordeeth,
Yeah.
Mordeeth, now we got Morven. I mean, I'm just saying,
I know,
can they be trusted?
yeah, they just did, yeah, yeah. I know, they're starting to sound a little too similar, right? Like, what's going
Right.
on?
We're getting into Lord of the Rings territory here. Eowyn,
Oh,
Aragorn, Arwen, it's like,
dude, let me tell you right now, because again, we're in so many different fandoms, and I read a lot of different stuff, and so do you. It is Lord of the Rings territory where you're like, I've even messed up sometimes, and a lot of times in Lord of the Rings, where I'm like, the names are too similar. They're so
right,
similar that I'm like, what the heck? Or they're so difficult to say, and everyone has different pronunciations, which is funny because Nick brought that up in his message to us. It's like, yeah, to go back and figure out, all right, how do you say this? I jacked up Tel'aran'rhiod at the beginning of the show
you
because
did.
I was like, I don't know how do you say it again.
Well, I do know on the Reddit, some of the Wheel of Time Reddits, they blast the authors of the audiobook because they do go back and forth on
Oh yeah.
Mogadine and Mogideon. And that's like a total different pronunciation.
Well, they
And then
also
we definitely have people who message us and they're like, you guys need to learn how to fucking say those words.
hey, you know the thing too. So Brigida and Brigitte,
Right.
they say that both
They
ways
say
too.
both.
That's why I actually like to kind of feather it in both ways from time to time
And we've
because
said it before that
to appease.
the show has totally changed the way they say some of these things.
Right, right.
What
It's
was it?
awesome.
What was the one they said that we were like, I've never heard it once pronounced like that way? Was it
Mm,
Camelin? It was like Caimlin or something. It was some
yeah,
Gildon. Or it was like
yeah.
Galen or something.
Yeah,
Like
it
the way
was
they said
something
it in the show,
different.
Galdon. And we're like, what the hell is Galdon?
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's like Gilladon is how what's his name says it.
says it. Yeah,
Michael
yeah.
Kramer in the audiobook, he's like Gildon, so
Yeah,
he
it really gets yeah,
he
you're right.
really gets it.
Yeah.
Then they called
I
it Galdon in the show. We're like, what the heck is that? Like,
Right. I think he had to do that because he himself is the reader. Because you're right, he does that all the time. He has to really like, ooh, I gotta like squeeze an extra
yeah.
like emphasis on this
You
syllable to make
you
it,
can't you can tell which characters he's really into Rand. Like you can tell he's like
Oh my god.
really into into
He's
reading into reading Rand.
right. He's channeling
Yeah.
some
And
crazy.
real quick, just before we move on to the second part of this chapter, and we are
Yeah.
talking about the audiobooks. One of the interesting things about the audiobooks about this, and I should go listen to the Rosamund Pike version of Eye of the World,
Yeah.
is because you have male and female. Sometimes you go back and sometimes you'll have like a conversation where it's like typically she reads female points of views. Well, she does, and he reads male point of views.
Right.
But you have two different people, so you still have situations where like Elaine is talking to Rand or whatever, and so like there is like something noticeable of like when she's covering like Rand,
It's true.
because
Yeah.
it's not necessarily like it's not like Game of Thrones where you like sometimes you need to treat the narrator as unreliable.